Hi everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Sellerboard Show. My name is Ladi Gordon. My today's guest is Daniel from intoprofits.com, and we're going to talk about operations, streamlining your business processes in your Amazon FBA business for growth. So we talked about product strategy, how to pick products and scale your product selection, about supplier management and sourcing, quality management, how to do this professionally, how to communicate with your suppliers, which contracts do you need, which agreements and documents to basically to scale your sourcing process. And we also talked about PPC. So Daniel told us about their approach to managing PPC, managing your target ACOS and bids in order to reach your profitability targets. So check this out. I think this is going to be valuable, especially if you're a growing seller. And don't forget to give us a like if you like this content, subscribe to our channel, and check out our software, sellerboard.com. Sellerboard is a profit analytics tool for Amazon sellers with a bunch of additional bonus tools like the inventory management, the money back module, which finds lost and damaged goods and helps you get reimbursed. We have a PPC optimization module, which automates your bids according to your ACOS or profit targets. We have Shopify dashboard coming up. We have an autoresponder, which automates mail campaigns and also request review clicks. So you've probably seen this new functionality in the Seller Central request a review button, which triggers a message from Amazon to the seller with a request to leave a product review and seller feedback. So Sellerboard cannot completely automate this through an API, no Chrome plugins needed or something like this. All runs completely automatically in the background. If you haven't used it yet or tried it yet, then try this. This is amazing. And the pricing starts at $19 a month. So the link is in the description, sellerboard.com. And now let's start the podcast. Hi, Daniel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Vlad. My pleasure.
Hey. So, Daniel, tell us about yourself. How did you get into this Amazon sphere?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been doing this since 2012, and I started as a college student, and just wasn't very excited about the prospect of normal job and those kind of things. So I started looking for some alternatives, basically, and eventually came across selling private label products on Amazon before it was really like a big thing. And it was the right thing at the right time. So I had some good success. And
have you been selling in Europe or in the US?
I've sold and do sell in both US and UK, Germany, but mostly it's been US.
Okay, cool. All right. And tell us about your current business. So what are you doing now?
Yeah, so right now, I still have my private label business. It's been going almost 10 years. But I also have a company called Intoprofits, which is more like a consulting company, mostly working with bigger sellers like high 6, 7, 8 figures. I've had a very big operation myself, so I've got some unique experiences there, but I'm able to, I'll add a lot of value to other sellers with that knowledge and experience, basically.
Okay, and what are you guys doing? So is it basically like a coaching or optimization? So what exactly is your service?
Yeah, so it's essentially like systems and operations. So one of the issues I think sellers have is kind of like with the boring stuff, not like everyone tends to talk about the marketing and the strategies, and people tend to like that, but like the boring stuff that has to happen over and over again, like managing a healthy supply chain, just having good systems and operations, hiring people, building a team. A lot of the people we work with have some sort of ceiling in their business. in terms of how far they're able to go, oftentimes, yeah, it is due to them being like basically a solopreneur, you know, doing everything themselves. It's a big transition to go from, you know, knowing how to do something yourself and actually knowing how to build a team around the business. So sort of where we're at.
So are you actually like helping customers grow, or are you coming at a later stage when somebody's already scaled or big and kind of automating the operations?
Yeah, so it depends a bit. You know, we have clients that are earlier on. Sort of minimum criteria we give is like you have to have a product at least that you're selling, because to apply the systems, like it's not really going to benefit you unless you are sort of at least committed to this and serious and sort of up and running. So we have some people earlier on, like 6 figures, but we also have like literally 7, 8, and even 9-figure businesses. To, you know, usually they're doing more because of specific things, because we provide like basically like the mindset and high level and the connections and different things, how to structure a business. But we also have specific systems for specific things, like supply chain, management of the team, tracking, business metrics, and also PPC, you know, so like a lot of the people that work with us join because they want to do PPC in-house. So we have very good systems there as well.
Okay, cool. So I think I like your point about like moving from solopreneur kind of business to a scalable business, because I was a seller myself, and I think I've never actually managed to move from solopreneur to a team. And the problem I had was, you know, a lot of things that are profitable when you're small, like a solopreneur, become unprofitable or problematic if you start scaling, right? So, because you need to build some overhead. So that's an interesting topic. But maybe let's start at the beginning. You know, so beginning is probably like product selection or strategy, right? So when I was a seller, my strategy was basically I was picking random products where the numbers looked good. But I found it wasn't very scalable, and it was also a lot of work. So how are you doing this, or what's your approach to operations here?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like it kind of works in stages. So what's important at one point becomes like less important at another point, that kind of thing. But obviously, what you choose to sell is probably the most important thing of all, because if you have the right product, then everything else becomes fairly easy in terms of selling the product and things like that. But obviously, it doesn't mean that it becomes easy to scale the business with a lot of products. So yeah, I mean, we do have basically very systemized methods to select the products. Usually, like if you already have a pretty established business, like initially you have to do like brainstorming and start from somewhere, right? And we test smaller orders and sort of do a very scientific process and kind of listen to what kind of works easily. You know, we're trying to find something that's easy, not difficult. So we can talk about that, but basically, like as you grow, if you have a base of products, what tends to be the easiest way in terms of product selection is to take a very data-driven approach and analyze what you have. You know, look at your data, you know, variations. You could potentially do related products and things based on what's working. So like, let's say you're looking at your PPC, you might have, you know, great keywords and things that work well for you, and maybe be able to tap into that more with, you know, a related product or variations and things. You might see things show up that are suggesting that, hey, I'm even selling my product through these keywords that are not even for my product. So if I actually sold that product, these keywords are actually for, it's more specific, it would do even better. So there's a lot of things like that. And then also for, you know, bigger businesses, what tends to be very valuable too is to look at the actual product and kind of evolve them. So maybe you start customizing them or improving the actual products, and that creates a lot of value within your business and tends to kind of, you know, keep you on top, because if you're too static with the product, you don't do anything to that product and just expect it to last, for 2, 3, 4 years, probably isn't going to happen. There's going to be competition that comes and erodes that advantage you have initially. And so there's a lot kind of to it, but hopefully that makes sense.
So would you like, okay, my problem was this totally makes sense, and I wanted to also add variations, but it's so much work, right? So how do you scale this? Because solopreneur obviously can't do everything, right? If you start outsourcing or trying to get help, you need to educate people and so on. So how to basically grow your portfolio if you're a solopreneur?
Yeah, sure. I mean, good question, because it's one thing to know how to do something, and then another thing to be able to actually execute it at scale. So the way I look at it, obviously a simplified version, but basically it's like two parts to it. First thing is you need the structure, right? So you need to have clear systems, effective systems, where you can basically get as much output through as little effort as possible, so you can streamline your activity to, let's say, if you're adding variations, you can do the right things, the right order, minimize the waste around that process, and have a structure. Then the second thing, and actually a way to measure, what you're doing with that, measure obviously CAS and all those things, time things right. But then the second thing is really the hiring, the team building. So I've learned a lot throughout the years on that, like the importance of hiring really good people, for instance, how to be able to get really good talent on board, how to work with those people, how to train them up, how to get them then running those systems, not like a robot, which I think is an issue people have. Like if you hire a VA to just run something robotically, then the issue tends to be that all the questions and decisions still fall on you. So it's kind of like an extension of yourself, and it can become kind of annoying and frustrating as well. And they do a worse job than you would do and all that kind of stuff. So it's a different thing to actually have a team where people are actually smart, take responsibility, and can make decisions for you. That's when you start to get a real team going and a real business that can actually scale.
All right, let's talk about like the next stage, sourcing. How do you do you have any specific systems or like approaches how to scale this process, right? Because like my problem was I had 15 different suppliers. I had a different status with every one of those suppliers. With some you're just negotiating, some you're just exchanging samples, right? Some products are being produced already, and I even like need a place to store this status, because at a certain point you're not sure anymore what did I order and what is like on the boat.
Right.
Right. So how do you build a process and how to manage this?
It is definitely the most complex part of the business, and essentially, like, you just need really good tracking and things like that, and the right kind of structure. So basically, we have several different systems we use for things. So like documentation and tracking is very important here. So like when it comes to reorders, we use a certain tracking system for purchase orders. We have actual agreements we use with the suppliers to get them to sign. There's a certain protocol to it. And then tracking the orders from, ordering through production, monitoring the lead times into the shipping phase, getting the quotes, finalizing everything. So we just basically track each stage through a couple of different systems that kind of connect. I'm not going to say it's simple, it's actually quite complex, but we try to make it as simple as possible, because by nature it's already very complex. But the key is just to have a very good overview and the right kind of structure for it.
How would you like when sourcing, like how would you manage quality? Is it a one-time like pre-shipment inspection, or what options do we have here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually, there's a couple of things we do there. Basically, we're looking to just reduce risk, right, as much as possible. So in reality, it obviously starts with just selecting your supplier and things like that, and having a good process to actually find a great supplier in the first place. It's kind of like hiring, you got to find the right person. So we have a good process, RFQ process for that, factory audits and things, making sure we're getting like a legit factory, not like a trading agent assembly shop type of thing, in China at least. So we have processes the entire way. When it comes to actually ordering, we have a process to define the quality of the item. So like all the specs, the components, like what goes into that, and actually define proper inspection criteria for the product, because you could do like a generic inspection, but it might not check the most important thing with this particular product. So we have that. We always use purchase order agreements with terms and things, and built into that is the actual inspection. So we do a pre-shipping inspection based on our criteria, which I think is worth it as an investment, because if it saves you one bad order going into FBA, can ruin that product, right, with bad reviews and things, high costs getting that out. So we do that, to be as certain as possible that everything is okay before it's shipped out. But then we also look at the feedback, and as we're selling, any feedback that comes through on the products, any issues, things like that, we take that and we kind of feed it back into the specs, the inspection criteria. So like if you have an issue, make sure in the next order we actually check that specifically, make sure it's not an issue again. So it's kind of like an optimization process to dial in the quality with the manufacturer, eliminate issues, and reduce the risk of them happening. So if, when we actually have these agreements in place, we can refuse the order if the inspection isn't acceptable, and the supplier will have to redo it and things like that.
So would you recommend to start with a pre-shipment inspection, or even earlier during the manufacturing process?
Yeah, great question. Pre-shipment is the default. So we do that. We rarely do inspections like within the manufacturing process, but I'm not saying you never want to do that. You might want to do that. Just depends on the situation, I would say. It's rare that we do that though, but yeah, you could, I guess, if it's something, that could not come out right if it's not done correctly at this stage and things like that. And of course, if you have products where you're sourcing several parts from several places, it becomes more complex, but everything should be inspected for sure.
But what happens like if you find a defect during the pre-shipment inspection? Because you probably normally you pay in advance, right, before the inspection, or at least a big part of the money, like, I don't know, 70% or so. So what happens if you notice, okay, the products are completely unsellable?
Yeah, great question again. I mean, basically what we do is we have like the default payment terms is 30/70. So deposit is 30%. And essentially, of course, you could maybe negotiate that to be better. Early on, you might not get those terms, but we try to put this in our favor. And essentially, what the purchase order agreement is saying, one of the things is that unless the product passes the pre-shipment inspection and we approve it, we're not going to pay the 70%. So the supplier has to fix the issue. Usually, if there's like defects and stuff, they will replace those items and things like that, and we inspect again. But basically, it's built in, so we don't pay, the majority unless it is approved by us.
And does the supplier know this criteria before they start the production?
Yes, because it's like we issue the purchase order, right, through basically it's a purchase order that outlines like the order, the units and everything, but also it has terms. And we use agreements like in China that are in English and Chinese. So they should understand it, and they are supposed to seal it with the Chinese seal, and do those things, send it back. So they're basically signing the agreement. So the purchase order is also like an agreement that they're signing, basically.
So tell me, like, what, I don't know, maybe we can pick some example product. I don't know, a jump rope. I'm always making the example of a jump rope. At what level should you specify those quality criteria, right? So is it like, you could say, okay, it should be, the product should be best quality, I guess, or you could specify it like at a very high level of detail. But I think for me, it was sometimes not clear what is obvious to the supplier, and sometimes things that are obvious to you as a consumer are not obvious to the supplier, right? So
Yeah.
How do you decide, or what's your experience? At what level should you specify those inspection criteria?
Yeah, so depends a bit on the product, but basically you want to go as detailed as possible. So we kind of work with a list of different things like the materials used, the way they're put together, the look and feel, different things. We kind of go through this list with a product to define what we regard as important. So we basically just try to be as specific as possible and understand the product. Now, obviously, you can go overboard with this too, but at least, you would want certain things, like in a jump rope. I'm trying to think what it would be, but I assume like like the stretch, you could stretch it or something without it breaking, the handles coming off. So maybe that's something you define, that it's like strung together in the right way and it can resist up to a certain amount of pressure, and you would put that in the inspection, basically.
Okay, so it's yeah, I guess I understand, it's really product dependent. Okay,
Yeah.
I think it's very one more question. I think it's very like systematic what you're doing, and when I was selling, I was never taking care of any purchase agreements or criteria, so I was just basically chatting and then ordering, right? But
Right.
this isn't necessarily the best approach to the quality. But tell me, like, when does it make sense to do those things, right? Because if you're a small seller and if you're making your first order, probably it's too much overhead to put all those agreements in place and so on, take care of this stuff. So when does it make sense to start with them?
Yeah, it's actually a very good point. I think some of these things you should really have like day one. It would be better, like the purchase order, doesn't take too much time, and I think it would really help you, like any case, reduce risk and also come across as professional and things. But you're right. I think certain things you wouldn't want to do from day one, because you want to be kind of agile and flexible and quick. So as we focus more on helping someone that has a good business, successful business, make it better, make it more profitable, make it more efficient, make it scalable, reduce risks, reduce costs. And so that's when these systems obviously do that for you. Like, you really need those systems at a certain point, or you're going to have issues. Like, you're going to have, like, even just staying in stock, is a big thing as you grow with many products. Like, it'd be very tricky to just stay in stock. But if you think about it, like, you could actually make more money in your business if that's all you focus on. Like, let's say this year, just never run out of inventory, than if you were to launch like 2 new products, because you're just, that's something you already have. And same goes with like bad orders, quality issues. They could really trip you up. So we want to get all those things, secured and stabilized as you grow.
All right. So look, let's skip the launch part. So we talked about product selection, strategy, and then sourcing. Let's skip the launch and go to ads, right? Or actually, maybe ads are also relevant during the launch phase. I don't know. What's your view on ads? Actually, is it something you view as a booster, like just to get the product going, or something that you run continuously?
Yeah, you might be surprised by this, actually. Like, I guess we're a little bit different with our approach, but we use PPC almost exclusively to market our products. We don't really do much else. And obviously we're choosing products that work well with PPC on purpose, like can be higher priced items and things like that sometimes. But we launch more or less just through PPC.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main mechanism we use for ongoing promotion. And one of the things we do that's, I guess, different there to most sellers is we really focus on the relationship between like PPC ads and your rank. So the paid optimization, keyword indexation, keyword prioritization, conversions, like the offer and all those things. So we really just focus on those fundamental things, doing PPC extremely well, being extremely on top of it, reducing waste, maximizing market share, but then balancing that out with organic ranking things to find like the sweet spot where you are the most profitable, because you can definitely spend more than you need to on PPC, but you could also spend less. Like a lot of sellers will think that a lower ACoS is a better thing, but sometimes it's not. Like you also reduce your organic sales and visibility if you reduce your ACoS or the amount of PPC spent. So we track that relationship and try to optimize that basically.
So how do you track it? I mean, not necessarily at scale, but in general, what does it like? What is this relationship? If I make one PPC sale through a certain keyword, I should like rank higher on that keyword. Is that the relationship?
Yeah, it can get really complex on like the keyword level, because you have hundreds of keywords and maybe thousands. But the big metric is the ACoTS, which is basically your ad spend compared to your total sales. So what I see a lot, for example, is, your ACoS goes up and you're like, oh, that's bad. But if you look at the ACoTS, it actually went down. So you're actually better off now with a higher ACoS. And this is because your organic has grown more than the paid, right? So we also track things like the percentage growth in organic versus paid and things like that. So we're trying to find, it's usually more like on the whole product level. We have systems to take the keywords and things and optimize them within the listing, make sure what's working well with PPC has given enough weight to rank for it as well. And things of that nature. We have that just as an ongoing process. But basically we have, overall we're tracking on the product level, like where we are the most profitable. And also, the ACoTS essentially is what is a little bit more complicated, but that's essentially the metric, that we focus on more than the ACoS.
How do you know whether, so for example, your ACoTS, I think we're calling it a real ACoS in our software, but it's basically the relationship between, it's basically the sales spend divided by the total sales, right? Not by advertising sales, but total sales, right? So, but if you see like it dropped, so that's a good thing, right? But how do you know you grew organically because of the ads? You might have grown organically because of something different, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. So again, we basically only do PPC, so I guess that makes it a bit simpler to understand. But what we do is like we set like a target ACoS, and we keep our PPC optimized around that. So by moving that number, let's say you start at 30%, and then you reduce it down to 25%. And then 20%, it's kind of like split testing. We're able to see the impact at each point and where we basically have the most profit at the end of the day. It's not a perfect science, but it gets us a bit close to the ideal spot with each product.
So what's your approach on the ACoS? Like, is there a good number that you kind of target when you're talking about ACoS, or how do you know what's your ideal ACoS?
Yeah, it's again, will be different per product, but usually we start at like the break-even point. And because when you launch the campaigns and everything, like they're going to be at a pretty high ACoS first couple of weeks, most cases. So we launch quite a lot, test a lot, and then we optimize it down to that target ACoS. And again, usually we start at break-even point. And then once we're at that consistently, we can see like how the product is performing, like how much sales volume and things are we getting, which will tell us if we're in a good place with the product or if we need to troubleshoot. Like, let's say the conversions could be holding us back, limiting how much we can sell at that ACoS and things. But if it's looking good, usually we would test lowering that target ACoS by like 5%, seeing the impact like overall. And then if that is better, we would keep going 20%, analyze it, is it looking better or not. That's sort of how we do it to find the perfect ACoS, but obviously this will then again change over time and things like that.
So suppose you know your perfect ACoS, or like if you picked a target, right? It's a break-even ACoS minus 5%, which would be then your margin, I guess, right? How do you, what's your approach to changing bids to achieve this target?
Yeah, so really good questions. I think that is something we do a little bit differently as well. So basically we measure, like there's a few processes we have, but at the like targeting level, like the keyword ASIN, we're also measuring what the ACoS is, but we're also like some things won't have an ACoS because there's no sales, right? So we're also monitoring for like a click threshold. So let's say something had 6 clicks, 8 clicks, no sales, we would want to cut that down. But if the ACoS
cut
is
down
there,
in the sense of like reduce the bid or put the keyword on point.
Yeah, so we're not really so much in like the negative keywords and stuff like that. We're more reducing the bids because it could work at that lower bid because the placement might be different. So that's our approach. It's more like lowering the bids and seeing if it works. Obviously, at some point, if it's not working, it's just going to die off.
Yeah.
But we use bulk operations and API to be able to do this at scale, like search and reports and things, to the bulk reports to be able to take an entire account's data and basically do these things at scale, because if you're manually clicking in Campaign Manager, it's not sustainable or scalable.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about keyword harvesting. So do you have any specific process for this, or like moving keywords from auto campaign to manual campaigns or something like this?
Yeah. So the way we do this is we have basically a couple of different campaign types, campaign structures, which are essentially processes like SOPs, and each one has its own like harvesting method for keywords and ASINs. So we have one campaign type which we call uniques, which will harvest untapped opportunity within your account. So let's say you've got an auto campaign running, something is working there. To scale that up, you'd probably want to take that and put it into a manual, test exact phrase and broad, see what happens, different bits and things like that. So yeah, we do that. And same goes like if something comes through phrase match or broad match variations, we might want to isolate that variation in another campaign and see how far we can take that. So that's one campaign structure. Then we have others like obviously auto suggested terms by Amazon, some things outside of Amazon like reverse ASIN searches and things, some competitors. So it's kind of like a mix, and sort of the big benefit comes from having this healthy mix of campaigns that is always monitoring things and testing things and trying to maximize market share, find more things that can work sort of on a regular basis, because things change. You might have new keywords pop up that people are using that are working. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
So Daniel, would you like do this job for a seller and take this PPC management and also other stuff that we discussed completely, or like do you help them build this system, and then kind of like a coach, like a growth coach or something like this. So what's your approach? Or
Yeah,
do
it's
you do
more the
both?
latter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do actually do both, but it's much more the latter. So we're actually giving sellers like the systems to do this themselves and do it in-house. So we show them how to hire someone to do it basically within their own team.
Okay, very cool. Look, Daniel, thanks so much. I think this was very informative. Tell us where can our users find you? You mentioned intoprofits. We'll put the URL in the description, by the way, but maybe you can tell it for those who are just listening.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this is intoprofits.com. That's our website. So intoprofits with an S.com. And yeah, you can see some stuff on there, content, and like a free case study if you want to learn more.
Cool. Thanks so much. Then good luck and have a great day.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like this content, then don't forget to press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.